I found the perfect altcoin. The altcoin will 100x. It will make me rich. The project is perfect. The team is perfect. The tokenomics are perfect. Everything is perfect. I go all in. This is how most people start their crypto journey. Then they get disappointed, and then they get a bit more fancy, as in, okay, maybe I don't know if this one altcoin will outperform, so I buy 5 or 10 of them. I buy 10 different altcoins, I diversify, I spread my risk, and that way I probably pick the one winner that will 100x, and I don't really care that much what the others are doing. Now this is better, but it's still bad. It's bad to buy and hold altcoins for a long time. Altcoins are good for a brief period of time when everything is hyped, but they're really, really bad long-term investments. Look at this here. I put this on the screen. Had you bought the 10 top altcoins 10 years ago, how good was the chance that you outperformed Bitcoin? You bought for the long term, you bought everything, let's say you bought everything in the top 10, including Bitcoin. How many of those altcoins outperformed Bitcoin? The answer is 0. Not a single altcoin outperformed Bitcoin. Had you bought Bitcoin, right, 10 years ago, you'd be up 8,440%. Had you bought the second contender, Litecoin, you'd only be up 1,550%. Had you bought XRP, you'd be up 5,880%, but that's still less than what Bitcoin did with its 8,440%. So the top 3, Bitcoin would have been the best. Now everything that goes beyond that, right, beyond Litecoin and XRP, all the altcoins below this, you've probably not even ever heard of them. It's very, very likely that you've never heard of them because they simply got forgotten, because they performed that poorly. They destroyed the capital completely. Do you still remember Peercoin? It's now down 50%, while Bitcoin made more than 8,000%. Have you heard of Namecoin? Namecoin's actually up. Namecoin's up 107%. But still, compared to Bitcoin with more than 8,000, very, very poor. What about Nova Coin? Minus 99%. You bought for $100, you now have $1 back. Whereas you put $100 into Bitcoin, you now have 10,000. That's the difference. What about Feathercoin? Minus 98%. Primecoin? Minus 97%. WorldCoin? Not the WorldCoin we know today, but another WorldCoin that was invented way, way back in the past. Minus 68%. TerraCoin? Minus 92%. Had you been a long-term holder of any altcoin, of any one of them in the top 10, you'd perform way, way less. You'd have way, way less money. You should have put every single dollar into Bitcoin. Now this changed a little bit. It changed a little bit if you don't go that far back in the past, not 10 years back, but only 5 years. So let's say 5 years ago, you bought the top 10. There is actually one altcoin that outperformed Bitcoin. There is a single one. May I guess what could that altcoin be? It's Ethereum. Had you bought Bitcoin 5 years ago, you'd be up 335%. Had you bought Ethereum, you'd be up 672%. So you made roughly double the return if you went into Ethereum instead of Bitcoin. For everything else, you got negative returns, at least relative to Bitcoin, but sometimes even in US dollars. What came afterwards is Bitcoin Cash, minus 57%, Stellar, minus 60%, EOS, minus 90%. Had you bought EOS 5 years ago, you'd be now down in dollars by 90%. Yeah, then you've got Litecoin, Cardano, Monero. All of them performed worse than Bitcoin. They made some US dollar gains, but they performed worse than Bitcoin. There's only one altcoin that you could have bought and held for the long term 5 years ago that would have outperformed Bitcoin if you just took the safest of the altcoins. But was it really that great of a risk reward to get into Ethereum? You might have outperformed, but we always have to think about risk adjusted return, right? If we adjust for the risk, is that double performance that great? I think no, because even after this 672% return, the market cap of Ethereum was still 1/5 of that of Bitcoin. So that's pretty bad, right? You have way less market cap, but you only, quote unquote, get double the return. So risk adjusted, I'd argue that even Ethereum was the worst bet. So it would have been better to simply just lever up your Bitcoin position. Maybe take even a personal loan with your regular income. You've got your regular salary. You take out a loan, you buy Bitcoin with it. I think that's still less risky than buying any of those altcoins. Now, what does that mean? It does not mean that you can never make money with an altcoin. It means you cannot make money with an altcoin if your strategy is to buy and hold over the long term. Making money with altcoins, in my very, very strong opinion, is a matter of short-term speculation. You are speculating when everybody is hyped about crypto. Everybody wants to get into crypto. Everybody wants to see what's the next Bitcoin after Bitcoin has already rallied a lot. When everybody looks for that next 10x, when Bitcoin cannot 10x anymore because it's already so high, that's when you want to potentially go selectively for a brief period of time while the hype lasts into some altcoins, always ready to pull the trigger to get out of this again. This is how I think you can make money with altcoins. When you're buying altcoins. There's another way to make money with altcoins. It's to do the exact opposite of what everybody else is doing. I see everyone trying to find either the one story where they put all their money in, right? That's the beginner mistake. Alternatively, get those 5 or 10 stories where they put all their money in. What about doing the exact opposite? When you know now that most altcoins over the long term do worse than Bitcoin, what can you do? You can bet on the relative valuation of altcoins to do poorer than Bitcoin. So you can bet on the Satoshi valuation of altcoins to go down. Now, why the Satoshi valuation? Why not the US dollar valuation? Because the Satoshi valuation is more likely to go down. When Bitcoin goes up by 1,000%, there is a chance that your altcoin also goes up. Probably not by 1,000%, as we've said, but maybe by 100%. So if you bet on falling US dollar prices of altcoins, you might still end up losing because just all of crypto is going up. So you've got correlation across assets. That's true in crypto land, that's true in stock market, that's true in the property market. Within a certain market, you've got very strong correlation. When the market as a whole goes up by 50%, chances are your asset also went up to a degree somewhere around that 50% curve. Right? It might have gone up 30%, it might have gone up 70%, depending on how well you picked, but there's a good chance that you went up when the overall market, when the leaders went up. But when you can identify the assets within a market that do poorly, and doing that identification is way, way easier than identifying the needle in the haystack, the one winner. But you simply just bet on the broad index of altcoins to do poorer than Bitcoin, you've got a pretty safe winner. You don't have to get too fancy. You don't have to analyze where's the token inflation the highest, or where has the team abandoned a project, or anything like this. You don't even have to go that deep because the odds are in your favor. If you have a diversified portfolio of altcoin shorts, when we are not in a hyped market like right now, you have a very likely outperforming portfolio. Most things underperform. So why take on all the headache trying to find this one altcoin that outperforms for a few weeks in a market of complete silence of player versus player, when most altcoins, most of the time, perform completely crappy? You can simply just put the odds in your favor, right? Why play the lottery when you can play the casino? Why try to find this one lottery ticket that might do well, find the perfect entry, find the perfect exit, when instead you can simply just allocate and short versus your Bitcoin? So you're holding Bitcoin, you're still assuming that Bitcoin will not, go to zero. This needs to be your fundamental thesis. The thesis in the strategy is we still think that Bitcoin in 5 years is probably going to be higher than it is right now because of tokenomics, because of adoption. And you look at all the on-chain metrics, hopefully you come to the same conclusion. If you believe that, then you can hold Bitcoin over the long term. You can keep this as your investment, as your collateral. But if you want to perform more than that, and that's probably the whole idea behind buying altcoins, right? You want to perform more than just buying and holding Bitcoin. You want to make the stronger returns. If you have more risk tolerance, and instead of trying to find this one outperforming altcoin, instead of buying this portfolio of altcoins, right, which did work really, really poorly in the past, holding this over the long term, instead of doing this, hold the shorts over the long term. Bet on all of these crappy coins to do poorly. You've got your Bitcoin as collateral, and then you bet on falling prices of all of those altcoins. You can do this in centralized exchanges. You can do this in Web3. You can do this in all kinds of places. There is, of course, third-party risk, because whenever you short something, you're normally entrusting a third party, or at least entrusting the smart contracts to not break, or the platform not to get hacked. So obviously you have an additional layer of risk there. But if your expected return from that depreciation of the altcoins is higher than the risk of those platforms, and if you maybe diversify across platforms, you don't just use Binance or you don't just use FTX, right? You use several platforms, then you should be okay, because when your expected depreciation of the altcoin is higher than the expected collapse of whatever platforms you deploy this on, you've got a bet that makes money over time. So really, this is a mistake I see so many people do. I see this with all the premium members on the channel, right? When I have one-on-one talks to people and they ask me, hey, what should I do with my ThorChain tokens? They haven't performed that well. Will this recover? Or they say, here, look at my portfolio of altcoins. I've got A, B, C, D, E. And then I have to tell them, screw all of this. It's a bad idea to have any of those, because holding over 5 years, holding over 10 years is at least risk adjusted going to perform really poorly. Then there's like a real transformation happening. And this is actually something that is a pretty counterintuitive thing to realize. It's something that you will not hear popular on YouTube, because as a YouTuber, right, there is all these conflicts of interest. When you make a video about a small pumping altcoin, everybody's watching you because everybody's searching for that altcoin that suddenly went up. If you then tell everybody, oh, this is a really nice altcoin, then people really like you, they give you a like, they give you a subscribe, then YouTube will spread this further out. And so what you end up with is a platform, a video platform that is full of shillers, full of people that promote altcoins and get all the audience wrecked in the end, because the interests are not aligned. That's the issue, right? As a YouTuber, we want to get reach, we want to get seen, we want to then later also monetize that reach, be it with memberships like on this channel, or be it with any other thing, right? Just simple advertising on the platform. You want to get as many people watch you as possible, and you achieve this by feeding what the masses want. But if you do this bluntly, you are not in the best interest of the masses, because that's the problem with investing. The masses do not gain. If you make a 10x on your investment, you are in the minority. The masses cannot make a 10x, right? If the market itself does not grow, if the market is simply just sideways trading, as it is now in the bear market, or even shrinking, then it's player versus player. There's no growth in the market. So net, there is nothing to gain here. There's only things to gain from others. So if you make a 10x on your investment, 10 other people have lost everything. This is the reality. So when you as a YouTuber serve the requests, the demands of the market, right, of all the people, of the masses, you get all that reach. You have to say things that are in line with that popular narrative. You cannot be too counter, because once you are too counter, you stay a small channel like this one, right? So this is what I appreciate about the people that are still watching here. You are very likely in the minority. You become realistic. Maybe you got burnt in the past, be it with a random Ponzi scheme, be it with a centralized exchange that rug pulled you, be it with any kind of altcoin that you bought. Then you saw a video, oh, this relative valuation to Bitcoin of that altcoin isn't actually that good. Maybe I sell, and so I might have prevented you from losing. Or maybe in the end you lost, and you said, oh, actually, what this guy said seems to make a lot of sense. Whatever it is, right? As you are longer in the market, hopefully your approaches to the market mature. Hopefully your opinions relatively become better. And the longer you are in the market, the more edge hopefully you also have against the average. If you are already in crypto for 10 years, you're probably way more skilled. You have way more ways to analyze things than if you just entered. And skill long-term, right, if you adjust for the volatility, etc., but skill long-term translates into alpha, translates into outperformance. So don't fall victim to what most people say. Don't buy this long-term altcoin portfolio. Don't buy this one altcoin that will go through the moon. Don't hold on for many, many years. Do these things. Handle altcoin with care. Only buy them temporarily, if you want to buy them at all. The safest way, if you want to be long-term dealing with altcoins, is to simply short them. Short a diversified portfolio of altcoins. And ideally, you want to even pick the altcoins that are the worst among the bunch. And there are several ways to identify them. One of them being token inflation, and the other one being activity by the team, how much is still being done. There's tons of dead projects that are worth betting on falling prices on. So this is my message here. I'm not saying altcoins can never recover. I'm not saying that if you now have an altcoin, that it will not rise again from here. But I'm saying when you've got a broad portfolio and the market as a whole is not growing and Bitcoin is not close to its all-time high, then the likelihood of now losing with that altcoin is very high. The risk-adjusted returns of that bet are very low. So don't make that mistake. Do something that the winners do. Look at what people that make money in this market, that legitimately make money in this market, look at what they're doing. And for people like me, right, that are selling memberships, ask them, what have been your returns? Can you prove that? Where can you prove that? Right? For example, here in Bitcoin Strategy, I just started 3 months ago a premium capital pool, which is now, so there was batch number 1. Every 3 months we've got a batch where we trade and we do this altcoin shorting stuff. And when you do some calculations to figure out, okay, you can maybe achieve around 40% per annum on top of just buying and holding Bitcoin. That's the target performance. And so in the first batch, in the first 3 months, we achieved that. We achieved 9% or 8.5% return in the first 3 months. Now we just opened the second batch, and that batch has just closed. So you cannot even deposit to this now. So there's not even to shill that. So I'm now trying to get the numbers on chain to prove that the approaches I follow here work. I'm not just telling you any bullshit. But the longer this goes on, the more proof this is. Right now I only have 3 months, but maybe after a year or so I can really say, okay, I consistently, every 3-month period, made alpha over buying and holding Bitcoin, and then I've got a way stronger case also to make. Who knows if by that time Bitcoin will already be risen again, and then we have to switch strategies again. But right now, this is, I think, the best approach. Don't buy a single altcoin, short a broad basket of altcoins, and that way you should be somewhat alright. I'd always make sure you don't fall victim of short squeezes, you don't fall victim of any kind of rug pulls from platforms. Diversify accordingly, and then you've got the odds in your favor. Then you are the casino. Then you don't buy the lottery ticket with that one altcoin that might do well over the next 5 years. Don't do this. Don't buy a basket of altcoins and hold it long term. You will end up wrecked. Right? You will burn your money, and why do this? Hope you found this useful. Feel free to join the Telegram as well. The link is down below. Cheers.